The coffee had already gone cold by the time I noticed the truck. I hadn't heard Darius pull up. That alone should have meant something. My grandson drives an old Ford F-150 with a belt that squeals every time he turns a corner. You can hear him coming from the end of the street on a quiet morning. But that day, I was standing at my kitchen window, watching the oak tree drop its last leaves, and suddenly his truck was just there, parked halfway down the block, not in front of my house, not even close, down near the Washington's fence line, where you could see my front porch clearly, but only if you were looking for it. I almost tapped on the glass, almost called his name, but something in me stayed still. He sat there for 9 minutes. I know because I checked the stove clock twice. He didn't move, didn't reach for his phone, just sat there, facing my house like he was studying it. Then he pulled off, slow, quiet, like he came for something, and decided not to take it. Not yet. 3 hours later, he called me, cheerful as ever, asked if I needed anything before dinner. I said no, baby, I'm good. And I believed that when I said it. I didn't understand yet what I had seen. I told myself he was just being peculiar. Darius had always been a thinker, always a little inside himself. Still, something stayed with me, like a word you almost remember. That was the first time something felt off. I won't take you too far back, because this didn't start in the past. It really started in September, about 7 weeks before the holidays. That part matters, though I didn't know it then. My daughter Sonia brought it up first. We were sitting at my dining table, eating smothered chicken and cornbread, when she mentioned I might want to make sure everything is in order. Said it casually, like she was talking about groceries. Mentioned a woman from her church who had a connection to a firm downtown. Family planning situations, she called it. Earl was sitting beside her, nodding in that quiet, practiced way of his. I told her I'd think about it. I was 64. I felt strong. I had just started water aerobics twice a week. My life didn't feel like something that needed managing, but she brought it up again, and then again. The second time, she mentioned her brother, my son, Terrence, said he had concerns about my house. That caught my attention. I asked what exactly he said. She got quiet, not confused quiet, controlled quiet. Her eyes flattened just a little, her voice smoothing out. Mama, Terrence just wants you to be protected. Then she asked if I was drinking enough water in the evenings. That smoothness. I've known it since she was 16. It means she's already decided something, and now she's walking you toward it carefully, so you don't notice the direction. But even then, I couldn't quite see it. Not clearly, because betrayal in a family doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't slam doors or raise voices. It comes soft, familiar, wrapped in concern. By the time you recognize it, it's already been sitting in your house for a while. Darius is Sonia's oldest, 27, and he's always been the one who really saw me. Not just as grandma, but as a person. He used to sit at my kitchen table late into the night, asking about my life before children, about his grandfather, about everything. I told him things I never told his mother, which is why that truck stayed with me. About 10 days later, my neighbor Miss Paulette mentioned seeing Darius having lunch with Sonia and Earl. Said he had a folder spread out on the table. Papers, official looking. She wasn't trying to tell me anything, but something in me heard it anyway. A folder. Around that same time, Terrence started calling more. 3 times in 2 weeks. That alone was unusual. He sounded warm, easy, asked about my health, the house, the fence out back. Then, light as anything, he asked if I'd thought more about what Sonia mentioned. I said not really. He laughed softly. No rush. Whenever you feel ready. Whenever I feel ready. It sounded patient, but it didn't feel patient. It felt settled, like someone waiting for something they already believed would happen. Like the outcome wasn't really in question. After that call, I made a fresh cup of coffee and stood at the window again. The oak tree was almost bare by then. And for the first time, I started putting things next to each other. Darius in the truck, Sonia's careful voice, a folder at a lunch table I wasn't invited to, my name on the deed, and the quiet feeling that maybe I wasn't the only one thinking about this house anymore. That's when I started paying attention differently, not in a way anyone would notice. I didn't confront anyone. I just watched. Sonia called me 4 times the following week. 4. That wasn't her. And none of the calls went anywhere real. They stayed on the surface. How are you feeling? Are you eating? Did you watch that show? Each one ended right before it could become something honest. That unsettled me more than anything. Not what she said, what she kept not saying. The second week of October, Darius came for dinner. Everything looked normal. He ate, laughed, told stories. But twice, his phone lit up face down on the table. And both times he reacted just slightly. A quick glance. A subtle shift. It was small. Anyone else would have missed it. But I've watched that boy for 27 years. That wasn't him being comfortable. That was him pretending to be. Later in the meal, he asked carefully if I'd thought about getting a lawyer to look at my property documents. Not my will, not my estate. Property documents. The phrasing sat wrong, like it had been given to him. A few days later, I was cleaning out my hall closet when I found my document folder. Everything was there. Insurance, mortgage payoff, deed. But the deed copy was in the wrong place. Still there. Just moved. Filed behind something else. I stood there longer than I needed to, trying to remember if I had touched it. I hadn't. And then I thought about the day Sonia brought that fruit. She'd been in my house almost 2 hours. At one point, she'd gone down the hall. Longer than a bathroom trip. I had assumed she was on her phone. I hadn't thought twice. Because she was my daughter. That was the moment something shifted in me. Quiet but final. I called my cousin Bertrice that night. Didn't tell her why. Just needed a voice without weight attached to it. We talked about nothing. Before we hung up, she said, "You all right? You sound like you're carrying something." I told her I was fine. She didn't push. But I knew she heard it anyway. 2 days later, I ran into Earl at the pharmacy. We talked like usual, polite, easy. As he was leaving, he said, "We just want the best for you, Loretta. Whatever happens." Whatever happens. I stood there after he walked away, holding that sentence in my hand like something fragile. Whatever happens means something is already moving. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and wrote everything down. The truck, the calls, the folder, the phrasing, the deed. Individually, each thing could be explained. Together, it looked different. It didn't look like concern. It looked like coordination. And the part that settled coldest in me was this. Every single one of them had a key to my house. I found out on a Thursday morning, and I wasn't even looking for it. I had just called Sonia about Thanksgiving. She didn't answer. So I called Darius. He didn't answer either. I let it go, went out back to water my plants. About 40 minutes later, he called me back, and something in his voice shifted. A pause before he said my name. "Grandma, can I come over?" He was at my door in less than 20 minutes. We sat at the kitchen table. I poured coffee. He wrapped his hands around the cup, but didn't drink. He looked tired, not from sleep, from carrying something too long. "I need to tell you something," he said, "and I need you to know I tried to stop it." I didn't interrupt. He told me everything. 6 weeks earlier, Sonia and Terrence had met with an attorney, not to protect me, to pursue a conservatorship, to take legal control of my finances, my property, on the basis that I was showing signs of cognitive decline. I heard the words clearly, but I didn't move. Cognitive decline. I walk miles every week. I manage my life, my bills, my home. There is nothing wrong with my mind. But that wasn't the point. The point was what they needed to say to take something from me. Darius told me they'd been gathering information, building a case, talking to people, even calling my doctor's office. I thought about Earl. Whatever happens, Terrence had been speaking with a property attorney too, looking into what would happen to the house. The house. It always came back to the house. Darius said he went to that lunch to stop it. That was the folder. He tried. It didn't matter. I looked at my hands. They were steady. Then I thought about Sonia in my hallway. She hadn't been on her phone. She'd been in my closet, going through my documents. My daughter. In my house. I asked Darius one thing. How long? Late summer, he said. Around the time a house nearby sold for more than expected. That's when it changed. I stood at the window again. The tree was bare now. And it hit me, not the legal part, not the money. The assumption. They had already begun speaking about me like I wasn't here. Like I was something to be handled. That's what broke something in me. Quietly, Darius said my name. I didn't turn right away. When I did, I saw everything in his face. Guilt, grief, love. He chose me. That mattered. I picked up my coffee. It had gone cold again. All right, I said, but in my mind, I was already thinking about that paper in my drawer and how I was going to need it. The following Monday, I called an attorney, my own. I told her everything. She listened, really listened. Then she said, calmly, that without medical evidence, a conservatorship wouldn't stand easily. I had come in at the right time. I updated my will that week, changed my locks the week after. Didn't tell Sonia. I just did it. Sonia called twice in November. I answered. We spoke carefully, like two people standing on opposite sides of something neither of us was naming. I told her Thanksgiving would be small this year. There was a pause. She said she understood. She didn't apologize. I didn't ask her to. Terrence sent a message, said he was sorry if things had been miscommunicated. I read it, put my phone down, didn't respond. Darius still comes by, not as often, but when he does, there's a carefulness in him now, like he understands what it cost me to keep the door open. I notice it. I don't say anything. Some things don't need to be said. What stays with me isn't the legal part. It's the distance, the gap between what I thought my family was and what it had already become. I think about those Sunday dinners, passing rolls, pouring tea, not knowing that somewhere else there were conversations happening about my life without me in the room. That's the part that lingers. My mornings are quieter now. I still walk, still stand at this window with my coffee. The oak tree fell back in come spring, like nothing ever happened. There's something honest about that. The world doesn't pause for what breaks inside you. It just keeps moving. And eventually you move with it, not because you're healed, but because standing still isn't an option. I've learned a different kind of love, one that doesn't assume safety, one that keeps a little distance. I didn't choose that version, but I know how to live in it now. Most days. Raymond's picture is still on the mantle. Sometimes I look at it and remember something he used to say. The ones who love you still love you when there's nothing left to gain. I understand that differently now. This house is still mine. My name is still on the deed. Some mornings I walk through these rooms just to feel that. The floors under my feet. The quiet. What I kept. Because I did keep something. I was still standing. And these days, I let that be enough. Some days it is. Some days I sit here with my coffee going cold again, feeling all of it The love, the loss, the space that doesn't quite close. And I don't rush it away. I just sit with it. Then I get up, water my plants, walk my miles, come back home, and stay.